In this piano tutorial, we will be learning the hymn, The Old Rugged Cross, in the key of E major, and this song was requested through the comment section, especially for this week where we celebrate Easter. And I'll basically go through the song, sharing my approach, sharing some gospel or jazz chord substitutions, and passing chords, okay? So if we analyze the melody of this beginning portion of the song, we're going to notice that some of the notes aren't part of the E major scale, right? The melody sounds something like this. Right, we can notice that B flat and this C aren't actually part of the E major scale. So there's going to be some chords that aren't part of that diatonic triad family, right? These chords that we use inside of the major scale. Okay, so we start off on the 1, on a hill. And like always, I like including those extensions like a major 7th and the major 9th, right? The E flat is the major 7th in this case, the F sharp is the major 9th. And an easier way of memorizing these chords is just playing an A flat, in this case minor, over an E flat, right? And if you want to include the 9th, all you do is add the second note of that chord, right, which is a F sharp. So we start off on the 1, and we notice that the melody is actually still over the 1, right? Right, all over the 1. So what I do here is play a diminished chord. But the way that I came up with this diminished chord was by starting off on the melody note and just going down 3 half steps, and 3 more, and 3 more, right? And we're still all over the 1. And then all I did was invert this diminished chord by taking the C sharp and bringing it up. And if you actually pay attention to the melody, this C sharp is the next note in the melody. So that's why I also use this diminished chord. So, and then we're back to the 1. Now the next chord is going to be a 4 chord, and it's actually going to be very similar to what we just did. But before we get to the 4 chord, I like to play a passing chord in between. And a very simple or very popular passing chord that is always used is the dominant 1. So E7, and then we go to the 4. And then we do the same exact steps. We take the melody note, make it a diminished chord, bring it up an inversion, and then land back on the 4. Okay, so let's see how all of that sounds all together. Okay. Now the next chord is going to be a 5, right? It goes something like this if we play with basic chords. Right, something like that. Basically going from the 5 to the 4 and then to the 1. But let's change that up slightly. And what I do here, before landing on the 5, remember we were on the 4, right? Before going to that 5, I play a 2 as a passing chord. And why does this 2 work as a passing chord before the 5? If we look at the 5, there's something known as a secondary dominant, which basically means using the 5 of the destination chord as a passing chord, right? So the 5 of the destination chord, which is B, so the 5 of 5 is actually F sharp. So, and this F sharp is a 2. So that's why that 2 is most commonly used as a passing chord before getting to the 5, okay? So I play a 2. In this case, I make it a dominant, right? That's why it's called the secondary dominant chord. So we make this F sharp 7, and then we land on the 5. And in this case, I'm playing it as a B major added 2. And again, I always try to maintain that melody up top so that it stands out. Now here it changes slightly. Instead of going from the 5, where it goes, the emblem of suffering and shame, right? Instead of doing that progression, what I do here is a whole set of chords, right? And if you notice, most of these chords are basically following the circle of fourths, right? We start on the 5, the emblem, and we go immediately to the 6, right? Because if we analyze the circle, we basically want to get to the 1, right? And the 5 of 1 is a B. Now the 5 of B is an F sharp, and then the 5 of F sharp is a C sharp. So it's basically a whole set of passing chords where we go from C sharp down to the F sharp, then down to the B, and then finally to the 1. So we start off on the 5, the emblem. Here we play a C sharp minor 7th, again always maintaining that melody, right? So we play 5, 6, 2. Here we're playing an F sharp minor 11th, then a B9 sus4, and then we land on that E major 9th, right? If we keep it simple, like without all of those extensions, and sound something like this. But like always, I like including those extensions so that it sounds fuller. We can even make that 5 slightly altered to conform to that melody as well, right? Right? From a B13 sus down to this B7 sus4 flat 9, and then we're back to the 1. Okay? Now this progression basically repeats again. And I love, it goes like this, right? That old diminished chord that we just learned. And I love that old cross where the dearest and best to forward. Now here the melody is what changes, but the harmony is actually going to stay the same, okay? So that means that our voicings are going to change in this case, right? That beginning verse, and I love that across, it stays the same, but then where it goes, for a world of lost sinners was slain, that's where the melody changes. So let's see how it goes. Something like that, right? So we start on the 5, for world, then the 6, then a 2, then a 5, and then we're back to the 1, right? That same progression. Before it was but in this case we're playing okay, it's the same thing. And that's the importance of learning these different voicings, because even though it's the same exact progression, there's a whole bunch of ways of playing the same progression without sounding the same, okay? But let's move a little bit back, because I forgot to introduce a different set of chords that I like using within the song, and I really want you guys to learn that part, because it opens up the creativity a little bit more, right? So we're in that part where it goes the emblem of suffering and shame, right? The emblem of suffering and shame. If we notice, we stay on this one chord for a while before going back to the one chord to start the next verse, right? But what I like to do here is, instead of playing a 2-5-1, I go from a 2 to a 5, then to a 6. And I'll show what I'm talking about and then explain how to form these chords. Right, so what I did here was play the same progression, 5, 6, 2, 5, but then here we change it up, right? The melody stays the same. It goes to an A flat, but here, instead of going to the 1, I went to a 6. But not just a minor 6, I made it a major 6, in this case a C sharp major 7th. And from here, the melody is still on A flat, so we can play any chords that include this A flat. So I went from this C sharp, and I'm thinking about this chord now as a 1. So I went from this 1, right, in quotations, to the 6, which would be a B flat, right? The 6 of C sharp would be a B flat minor, but then I turned around and came back to the original chords and just played a 2-5-1, all still while under the same melody note of A flat, and then a 5 and then a 1. Okay, once again. And then we're back in the next verse. Okay, so let's move on into the chorus of the song, where it goes, so I'll cherish that old rugged cross, right? It goes, the melody is very simple in this case because we're still in between or inside the E major scale. Right, so let's stop there and include the chords now. We play a 5 chord in this case, so I'll cherish that old rugged cross. So all we did here was play a 5, then a 2, then a 5, and then back to the 1, right? If we bring the melody a little bit lower so that the chords are closer together, it sounds like this. 2, right? In this case, we're playing a sus 5 and then a resolved into a B9, and then we're back to the 1. Now the next chord would be a 4, right? It goes, then to the 1. So instead of going directly from the 1 to the 4, in this case, if we end the last verse, we're on the 1. And what I like to do here is play a 5-1-4 progression, which leads me from the 1 to the 4. Right? So 1, 5, and then 4. So 5, 1, and then that 4 chord. Right, now here we have a couple of options to do, right? That was one of the options, right? Going from the 4, in the part that says, till my trophies at last I lay down. Right here, very churchy type of chords where we go from the 4 to a diminished chord, a half step up, right? On B flat, to a 1/5. But something else that I like doing here is basically using some passing chords again, right? So right, very similar but slightly different from. So what I did here was play a 4. And now here, what I'm thinking about is a minor 2-5-1 progression, right? In this case, the one that I'm thinking about is A flat, right? That's my destination. Right? A flat as my base is the destination. So I formed that minor 2-5-1 progression around this A flat. So the 2 would be a B flat half diminished. Then the 5 would be an E flat, in this case altered, right? A E flat 7 sharp 5. But instead of playing an A flat, right, I make it a E major over A flat, right? That's a substitution that we can play for this A flat. So once again, we can even use a passing chord in between that E flat, right? Passing chord, and then we're here on that E over A flat. So all together, right here again, still following that circle of fourths. Right after we did this progression, I went from here to the 6, then to the 2, then to the 5, and then back to the 1. And here all we're doing is playing a 1, make it a dominant because the next chord is a 4. We play this A as a major 7. And then we're playing this F sharp half diminished, right? And the way that I think about this chord is when we go from the 4, right? We're on the 4. All I do is make this 4 a minor, but my bass, I move it to the 2. And that gives me that F sharp half diminished, or minor 7 flat 5. Right here, all I'm doing is playing that same chord, but inverted, right? Then we play a 1/5, then a 5, and then we finish off in the 1/4, right? So what I want to do now, since the lesson was sort of broken up into sections, is play the whole song without any interruptions. I'll include some extra stuff that may come up as I'm playing. Hopefully I don't mess up, and hopefully you're able to capture something else that you can learn and apply to other songs as well, okay?